Hello everyone, welcome to Primetime Recaps. Please like and subscribe to support the channel. It will make us happy and help us keep making videos like this. Today, I'm going to be explaining a movie titled The Last Recipe, released in the year 2017. Warning, spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie opens up with a man named Mitsuru Sasaki. He is a talented Japanese chef known for having the taste buds of a mythological giraffe. This is because he never forgets the taste of the food he eats and is always exact. He would copy dishes even without a recipe. One day, a bedridden man and his wife call him to make a last meal for the dying man. Sasaki comes to the hospital room with a table fitted with all the ingredients and utensils. The dish he is making is a simple fried rice and omelet, but it has to be like the exact one the man and his wife used to have when they were young. They observe him closely as he displays his skills with knives. Halfway through the cooking, the familiar aroma of omelet spreads around the room, surprising the couple. It is exactly how their house smelled like every morning when they were young and struggling. Eventually, they get to taste the food and tear up because of the memories it brings. After devouring it all, the man declares it his last meal and asks his wife to reward the chef for his work. Sasaki is appreciated, but he doesn't show any emotion while being praised. He only cares about the 1 million yen he is getting to cook the dish. Somewhere else, Sasaki's best friend, Ken, is at a funeral. Sasaki and Ken were brought up in a children's home by the director who recently passed away, but Sasaki refuses to go to his funeral. A flashback reveals that the director never supported their decision to learn culinary art, hence, Ken and Sasaki ran away from the children's home when they were teens. Ken still kept in touch with the director, but Sasaki never did. As a result, he doesn't feel like he deserves to be at the funeral. Ken calls him repeatedly because it was the director's last wish to meet his son-like boy, but Sasaki hangs up. We soon find out that Sasaki's restaurant failed not long ago and has put him in a lot of debt. He presently makes money by cooking rich people their final meals. Another flashback shows that the restaurant was doing pretty well and was renowned for its authentic taste. However, due to Sasaki's perfectionist nature, he threw away a lot of dishes made for the customers if they weren't perfectly made. This caused his employees to detest the work environment, and gradually, no one wanted to work with him. On the same night as Sasaki reflects on his past, he gets a call from an agent asking him to come to China to cook the last dish for someone important. They offer him 3 million yen for a single dish, a deal he cannot refuse. The next day, he goes to meet the said important person. The man is an old man named Saimayo, a chef respected by every Chinese culinary artist. He cooked for generals and emperors during the time of World War II and is regarded as a legend of East Asian and European cuisine. Sasaki is confused as to why someone like Yo wants him to cook his last dish. The man introduces himself before revealing that a teacher, Nataro, taught him to cook everything he knows now. He says Nataro paved the way for his career and made him into who he is today. When they were in Manchuria, during World War II, they created 112 dishes, each made with different flavors and different cooking techniques. They were the rarest world delicacies, but the recipes have been lost. No one knows where Nataro is presently, but Yo believes that he still has the recipe book. Sasaki's job is to find Nataro's book and cook the dishes he created. Since the work is rigorous, he will be compensated with 50 million yen. The money will pay off all of Sasaki's debt, but he is still unsure about the task. In a state of dilemma, he goes to Ken's local restaurant with the 30 million yen he got as an advance payment and asked him for advice. Being a good friend, Ken tells him to accept the task, because even if he fails, he has nothing to lose. The next day, Sasaki goes to a government office to study Nataro's ancestry. He finds out that the man retired in 1964, but no one knows what happened afterwards. While looking through the pages, someone named Tatsumi catches his eye. He seems to have been a close friend of Nataro who might know his whereabouts. The next scene opens with Sasaki going to Tatsumi's house and finding out he has been dead for over a decade. However, his wife gives him the address of another man who might be able to help him. The man's name is Kamada, and he was Nataro's helper when he was in Manchuria. Kamada lives on a secluded mountain where he runs a small restaurant. He discloses that he doesn't have the recipe book, but he can tell Sasaki how the recipes were created. From there, we are introduced to a flashback. In 1933, Nataro, his wife Chitsu, and a young Kamada came to Manchuria for the first time. They were called by the Japanese army general who wanted Nataro to create the best delicacies for the emperor who will be visiting in a few months. Nataro was given his private kitchen with all the ingredients and equipment he needed. They were also introduced to a Chinese helper named Yo, the same old man man who is now a retired world-famous chef. Sasaki stares in surprise on hearing the name of the person who hired him. Yo was arrogant on his first day. He boasts that the Japanese cannot make dishes better than Manchurians, but Nataro doesn't take it to heart. Instead, he asks the helper to make something for the family because they're tired. Yo makes a famous watermelon dish and puts something special in it which he claims is a secret ingredient. After eating the food, Nataro gets up and skillfully creates an exact replica of it. Yo tastes the food and is blown away because the chef nailed the exact taste even without the secret ingredients. Nataro reveals that he never forgets the taste of the food he eats, a unique talent he has learned over the years. Yo becomes much more welcoming after the incident. They start working together from the next day, and the first dish Yo makes is a Manchurian spring roll. Nataro adds something new on the dish, creating a version that suits both Asian and European taste buds. This spring roll has fish and meat inside and is delicious. Back in the present, Kamada makes the same dish for Sasaki and asks him to taste it. Even the critical chef is blown away by the taste, but he comments that the amount of salt could be reduced. Kamada is in shock as the comment sounds a little too familiar to him. Nataro frequently used to comment that he puts too much salt in everything back when they work together. In addition, he was very critical of the food he created and threw away anything that wasn't 100% perfect, much like how Sasaki is. After Nataro's first week in Manchuria, the army general is presented with the first dish he came up with. The man enjoys it all and allows him to create more of such dishes. As work continues, Chitsu takes on the responsibility of being the group's photographer. She helps her husband write the recipes down at the end of every day, but refrains from helping in the kitchen because she is pregnant. We are also introduced to the regular military chefs whose job is to cook for the people on the base. They are not allowed to go inside the special kitchen because it is for experimental and special purposes. The chief cook and his son always want to socialize, and so they grow close to Chitsu with time. One day, Nataro introduces the concept of 112 dishes assigned to 4 respective seasons. They are to continue creating new dishes and adding them to the wall, innovating and removing some in the process. Soon, they begin experimenting with many foods from around the world. The wall eventually fills up with recipes, and they finally make 112 new dishes. The team is eager to celebrate, but Nataro surprises them by tearing off some of the dishes. According to him, their real challenge has just started because now they'll have to pick the good ones out and throw away the average ones. For the next few months, Nataro immerses himself in work, but fails to come up with new ideas. Chitsu sees her husband struggling and advises him to start trusting his colleagues. Hitherto, Nataro only trusted his craft and didn't believe Yo and Kamada could come up with great ideas. Chitsu knows that he can only win if he keeps this arrogance aside. Some days after, Chitsu gives birth and passes away. Moments later, the head cook finds Nataro in the kitchen cooking something and calls him out for being a heartless man. Nataro then reveals that he is making Chitsu's favorite dish and they enjoy a feast in her memory. It now turns out that the responsibility of his newborn daughter is entirely in his hands. Back in the present, Kamada stops talking and gives Sasaki the address of a Russian man named Joseph. Sasaki has to go to him to hear the rest of the story. When he reaches Joseph's restaurant, he finds out the man is dead, but his son Robert is ready to tell him anything he wants to know. Robert used to be best friends with Nataro's daughter Misa when she was a child. At one point in history, Nataro was called to cook for a Jewish exchange party where he met Joseph. It is also where Robert and Misa met for the first time. Nataro and Joseph have their differences at first, but Nataro manages to impress him with his non-traditional cabbage roll dish. It has elements of Russia, Japan, and China, making it a perfect dish for meeting with people of all these nations. The meeting was very successful and all credit went to Nataro, and this marked the beginning of Nataro and Joseph's friendship. At present, Sasaki is offered the cabbage dish that Joseph's restaurant still serves today. He is yet again blown away by another of Nataro's dishes. After enjoying it, Sasaki inquires where the recipe book with 112 dishes is. Robert then reveals that one afternoon, Nataro came to Joseph in a hurry and trusted him with the recipe book and a letter, because at that time, Manchuria was filled with spies from different communist parties. Nataro was told Yo was a Chinese spy who had not only been keeping an eye on them, but was selling the recipes to outsiders. The betrayal prompted Nataro to kick Yo out of the base, demanding that he never returns. Sasaki is in shock that the person he met at the beginning of all this was the villain, but then Robert hits him with another surprise, disclosing that Nataro asked Joseph to give the recipe book to Yo. This means the old man had the recipe this whole time, but he still made Sasaki run around for it. After Sasaki finally figures everything out, He goes back to Yo and inquires what the last piece of the puzzle is. Yo still says that he doesn't have the recipes. He then asks him to read the last letter left by Nataro. In the letter, Nataro discloses that he was asked to poison the Japanese emperor when he came to feast in their establishment. The army general is being given a lot of money to do so and is offering the same to Nataro. He says if the plan goes right, they will blame Yo for poisoning the emperor because he is Chinese. Also, Kamada turns out to be a Japanese spy sent to keep an eye on Nataro and the group. Nataro doesn't have the option to refuse the offer, so instead, he kicks Yo out of the establishment to save his own life. However, the general still pesters Nataro to cook for the emperor and poison the food. Thus, the night before the food trial, Nataro copies a second recipe book and hands it over to Joseph. On the day of the trial, he burns the original copy of the book, and this enrages the general because his plan is now ruined. Nataro is imprisoned as a result. In order to ask for forgiveness, Kamada tries to break his master free at last, but before he succeeds, the general shoots Nataro dead. His daughter Misa remains with the head cook, who takes care of her like his own daughter. Soon after, the Japanese war starts and he brings his son and Misa to Japan to save their lives. Yo says that he made connections with Japanese high profiles and climbed the ladder of success. Meanwhile, Kamada went to war. Several years later, they reunite and look for Misa because she is the true heir of the recipe book. They soon find her still with the head cook and his son, who she calls her elder brother. She also has a little son, but her husband is dead. Upon finding out about her father, Misa breaks down in tears and promises to open a restaurant using his recipes to honor him. On the day of the restaurant's opening, there's a fire outbreak and Misa dies trying to save the recipe book. Her poor kid screams for his mother, but she never returns. The book, however, is miraculously saved a few days after her death. Her elder brother took the responsibility to take care of her son and established a children's home for less fortunate children. This is when Sasaki realizes that the kid is in fact him. He is Nataro's grandson and Misa's son, who lost his family and was raised by his uncle in a children's home. Yo sent him out on this mission so he would find out about the history of culinary art and his family through research. In the end, the director wanted to meet him before dying because he had the recipe book and he wanted to hand it over to its rightful owner. But instead of being handed the book up front, Sasaki had to travel the world and get paid 60 million yen. In the next scene, Sasaki is seen returning to the children's home and paying respect to his uncle's shrine. He finally receives the recipe book and sees the pictures of his family. Now he understands the reason his uncle didn't want him to become a chef is because he had seen his family suffer due to their obsession with food. The movie ends with Sasaki recreating his grandfather's dishes for the children at the children's home. I hope you liked the movie. Please turn on the bell icon to be the first to watch our videos when we post contents like this. You can also suggest a movie you would love us to explain in the comment section. Thanks for watching.